People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Yup, Keanu is Shadow, though he just sounds like Johnny Silverhand. I have a terrible feeling that Shadow having Johnny's voice is going to awaken something in some people, and I hope I'm wrong.
Some additional details about the movie that people have pointed out is that Rouge and Amy were not in the movie, Chow looks like they're just mascots in this universe, and this tweet pointed out that the original animators from Shadow the Hedgehog returned to animate the movie.
Not sure if we'll get Super Shadow, but hey, the movie looks good either way. I can't believe they got Jim Carrey to come back for a third time, playing two different characters. He never does third times.
Welcome to Necronews, the show where we cover the hottest gaming news from the last week. This week we'll be covering everything going on with Lewd Protocol, the Snowbreak censorship debacle, the closure of Oakwell Studio, plus a lot more.
So subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so that you can keep up to date with all the news you may have missed.
Foamstars was one of those games that should have been really good. God, oh my, what the fuck? But because the game was riddled with microtransactions, it just wasn't.
Good thing they're making the game free to play, huh? But Ellie, Booster, wasn't Foamstars already free to play? You're right, it was free to play, but only if you bought PS Plus. Otherwise you couldn't access the game, play it, or buy $60 skins for your characters.
What Square Enix meant by this is that Foamstars can now be played even without PS Plus. But no one probably will because it's still locked to a console that no one really actually has. That wouldn't be the case if they just released it on PC though.
Also, why are they calling something free to play when the only difference is that you don't need to have a subscription to play it? Something you could do on PC anyway.
Because it's not on PC?
Yeah, but it's stupid.
No one's saying it's not stupid.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Anyway, if you have a PS4 or 5 and want to play a game that's basically built like Splatoon, check out Foamstars. If for no other reason than to give me someone to play against, I guess.
Croc, The Legend of the Gobos was a fun PS1 game developed by Argonaut Games. It wasn't a mega hit or anything, really more or less just a generic 3D platformer that took elements from Mario 64, Tomb Raider, and Gex, but it was a fun, cute little game.
Despite the game not being a massive success, or the developer itself not making many hit games, both are getting revived, though not by me. I'm magical, not rich.
Yeah, Croc is getting a remaster with an additional digital museum called Crocopedia, which will include things like concept art, animation tests, and team member interviews, plus a lot more.
As for the studio, as far as we can tell, all the founding members have returned and apparently have some exciting news in the pipeline, though we'll be keeping an ear out for any new information as it becomes available.
As a side note, I just realized that Argonaut Games made Malice. That was a fun game. It also made Buck Bumble.
What is Buck Bumble?
What about now? It's time to rock with the biggity buck bumble. What about now? It's time to rock with the biggity buck bumble. Bum to the
Gearbox is not having a good time lately, which, given their track record with failures such as Homeworld 3, the Borderlands movie, and Duke Nukem Forever, it's not that surprising.
But now we can add another game to their ever-growing list of complete failures, the Seekers of the Storm update for Risk of Rain 2. For those who don't know, Risk of Rain 2 was not originally created by Gearbox, it was bought by them, and this DLC is the very first thing developed by Gearbox completely.
The most noticeable change is how everything is tied to the frame rate of the game. It's sort of like that bug in Fallout 76 where you'd go sonic fast if you stared at the ground, but for literally everything else.
A small taste of things that can now go fast. The entire health system, spawn rates, how strong enemies are, how fast enemies can fire. In fact, if you have too many frames in your games, the enemies just jump in place. There's a lot more, but you get the idea. This is all, quote, working as intended. And I guess including losing your save data because you plugged in another controller is working as intended too.
To be fair, Gearbox is the company that made Aliens Colonel Marines, and that game is abysmally bad. So is it really that much of a surprise?
No, I guess not. They are led by Randy Pitchford after all. Anyway, for once, mods can't fix this, and in fact modders of the game are worried that they won't be able to mod the game anymore due to these changes. The original dev for the game, Gore, even weighed in and stated, "I wrote a majority of the game's code among other things, and its code base I'm really proud of, especially with so many people doing cool things modding the game. In the indie space, small team sizes mean there can be a lot of sense of individual ownership in what you do. seeing some of the rush changes crippling that work is difficult.
Of course, since the development team Hoppo sold Risk of Rain to Gearbox back in 2022, many people are calling Gore a sellout and that he should just shut up. But a lot of people did forget that Gore split off from Hoppo Games in 2021, so he didn't have a whole lot to do with the buyout.
Who the hatred should be directed to is in fact Randy Pitchford, the King of Greece himself.
I thought that was DSP. They can't share the same title booster.
It's like joint custody. Anyway, you heard us rag on the man many times, I'm sure, but just so that we're all on the same page, Randy has a chronic problem with lying and being pompous, which makes him completely unlikable.
According to Randy, they just tolerated the bug instead of figuring out what the cause was, and yet they shipped it anyway. Amazing.
Equally amazing is how Randy is making this whole thing about himself. In response to people getting pissed at him taking credit for the DLC's initial success on Twitter, Randy compared just himself to the fucking Beatles. Because, according to him, the Beatles had bad songs too. Do you still want to play Borderlands?
No.
That is the objective correct answer.
Does anyone remember Blue Protocol? It was an MMO made by Bandai Namco that was revealed at the Game Awards 2 years ago and was going to be brought to the West by Amazon. Lots of people were very excited for it, and I think even Booster and I were impressed by it.
The game was actually released last year, but only in Japan. The Western release was delayed, and then delayed again, and then delayed again, until it was just outright cancelled this week, alongside the announcement that the game would be going offline. Which is probably a good thing, because there was lots of talks and rumors that Amazon was going to ruin the Western release of the game by changing the creator's actual vision for the game in numerous ways, such as race-swapping characters, removing body types, censoring outfits, yada yada. You get the picture. But that is not why the game is being canned.
Yep, like Booster said, the whole game is going offline forever on January 18th, 2025. What could be the cause of this, you may be asking? Well, it's pretty simple. The game is just shit. From a terrible launch that left people sour to Bandai Namco, to gameplay mechanics that were just blatantly unenjoyable, a lot of Japanese players just didn't feel like the game was fun. The game also ran badly and was missing a lot of quality of life fixes.
Bamco did eventually fix a lot of these complaints, but it's also Bamco, and they only ever try when it's Dragon Ball Z. So in true Bamco fashion, instead of trying to fix the game for Western release, they've just cut their losses and run. Which is fine, because maybe now they'll make a .hack MMO.
That's rich, Booster. That's rich. I'm holding my breath.
If you know anything about gacha games, you'll know that only a very specific type of person will spend a ridiculous amount of money on them. Those types of people also tend to hate censorship because they want their 2D waifus to be as sexy as possible.
Which brings us to the topic of this week's story. The Snowbreak Containment Zone is a gacha game that none of us have ever heard of, frequently boasted that it was never going to cave to Western Twitter's pressure and will never censor itself. They were unabashedly proud of the fact that they made skimpily clad girls with giant tits.
D-cups, full of justice.
And it's something that garnered them a lot of attention amongst gacha gamers.
And with that attention, Snowbreak intended to stay within the lewd gacha space. Not as lewd as the Chinese NTR grand strategy game Series, but still lewd. However, the developer CSUN Games is a Chinese company, and if there's something the Chinese government doesn't like, it gets removed.
So the game had to implement more conservative costume changes to go along with their new very specific requirements by forces outside of their control. They're not quitting though, as there seems to be a text file hidden within the game that seems to decensor the game. No idea if this will be fine with the CCP or not, but you have to admit it's kind of ballsy.
Speaking of China, did you know that the Visions of Mana game and its developer Oka were owned by NetEase? We didn't until the story broke. Visions of Mana was just released last week, and NetEase pulled an Xbox on Oka, and now their whole studio was closed down.
Unfortunately, it matches a pattern coming from the big two Chinese publishers, Tencent and NetEase. They invested in Japan quite heavily in 2020, but their investment actively became a detriment because of societal and work culture clashes, and really just their different approaches when it comes to games.
Now that the mainland has produced a major hit with the breakout success of Black Myth Wukong, development investments are being relocated back home. which of course means more layoffs. I can't tell if this year is worse than last. This week's Buried Alive Banger, a segment where we cover a game our community doesn't think has had enough attention, is going to be a little different this week.
Why is that? Well, because the game isn't out, or even close to being out. It's called Vampire Syndicate Gangs of Moonfall, and it's a first-person exploration turn-based XCOM-styled RPG set in a cyberpunk universe about vampires.
Look, the developer of the game is an adult game creator and has set out to make the game he has dreamed of. And this game is his last chance at proving he has a place within the industry. The game's scope is ambitious, but promising, and honestly I'm rooting for him because there is nothing I love more than a person with a ton of passion.
So is this going to be an H game?
Yeah, that's what I got from it.
Okay, because we can't actively endorse an H game, you know that, right?
We could. Look, it doesn't matter. We're going to do an interview with the developer at some point. If you guys are interested in it, let us know down in the comments below. Here are the games coming out. Here are the games coming out this week. We got Quidditch. We got Ace Attorney Investigations. We got Space Marines. All games we are probably going to play.
And here's our schedule for this week. I'll be doing more Lies of P, and Booster will be starting Wukong.
And that's it for this week's Necro News. If you like what we do here and want to keep up to date, subscribe to the channel.
And if you made it this far into the video, be sure to put a monkey in your comment.
Return to monkey. And as always, a very special thank you to our channel members. You guys are the best. If you want to become a member, consider subscribing. We're going to be posting more of our blooper reels very soon here. But that's all we have this week. So until next time, goodbye.